Well, we have our first teaser of The Witcher by Netflix. Greetings! I would like to welcome you very cordially to Ravens from Cintra, the podcast about The Witcher where the true fans can explore the Witcher lore together. Okay, this is what I can find in the teaser, and by all means join the conversation, comment in the comments. Wow, that was intelligent. And I am wondering if you can actually see similar things. I might be wrong, but I know the books really, really well. So let's have a look at the trailer or the teaser. So the opening scene, the Witcher walks through a town, and here I'm thinking it is possibly Blaviken, where he gets his one of his aliases, the Butcher of Blaviken. And well, it is what it says on a tin. He butchered a few. They were bad guys, but still, he was he didn't show much mercy there, and he needed to leave Blaviken in a rush. Anyway, the other interpretation of the scene and few other scenes in the same atmosphere, it can also be Temeria, or its capital city, Vizima, where the whole story, this is where people meet Geralt for the first time, and he comes to Vizima called by the king of Temeria, Foltest, to help save his... I'm trying to make it spoiler free. Basically, the next thing you know, the Witcher's fighting Striga, or Striga as it is in the books, original books, in original language, let's say. That makes me question if it is Blaviken. Another interpretation of this scene could be Geralt walking through the city or the town called Ardginvael, or if the memory serves me, in the common language, the Shard of Ice, which is actually the title of the short story. And this is where the confusion comes from, because the quote you hear in the background, there we go, there's the quote.
I remember hearing stories about witches. Is it true what they say?
Comes from this story, The Shard of Ice, and it's spoken by a guy who wants to challenge our Witcher for a duel because he's a pretty good fighter, and I guess he wants to check his skills against the Witchers, legendary witches. The guy's name is Cicada. There's a bounty on his head. His real name is Ivo Mirce. There we go. And this, I would really like to actually see this, because it's one of my favorite fights in a book. It makes me feel empowered, you know. It's like you still can be one of the good guys and not be completely humiliated by some idiots. And in this short story, Geralt actually punishes him in a very funny way, but it's just great. And I feel this is one of my favorite parts in this story. So I hope it's this, but because it's Striga in the very next scene, I am leaning towards the idea that it's actually Vizima and his first ever, let's say, recorded assignment, paid assignment, which is, as you probably seen the trailer, there's a little mention of that he kills monsters for money. Cicada refers to the gossip and reputation that precedes witches, the whole notion that they are very, very good in sword fights and fencing because they have no heart and no soul, and no mercy and no conscience. That's a quote, by the way. In the books, Geralt is trying to be emotionless, which is not really working for him, and he's really not, but he's trying to be, and he blames his mutations, which is a pile of dragon crap. And I think the fight with Cicada is one of my favorite ones, because you feel like the idiot gets punished. You know, every day we meet people that you just want to punch them in the face. and solve the whole problem with them that way. And this is how it feels like in this story. Geralt just kind of deals with it very quickly in a very empowering way, as I said before, and it feels like a little bit like watching Denzel Washington. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but the Equalizer, really good film, by the way. Have a look. This is how it feels like. The next scene is, it seems like, this is what I think the creators said. This is Brokilon. Dryads are archers, and their leader, Aethne, is silver-eyed, silvered hair, very old being, because she's so magical that it's very hard to even say she's just a dryad. On this screen, this is Aethne. So this is something that I don't really like. And why the spears? This is more, for me, how Zerikanyan warriors should look like. There were black girls from Zerikania worshipping dragons, tremendous, ferocious warriors. Great. If this is some kind of influence of Zerikania in there, fine. But if they're dryads, if they're elves, oh boy, we have a problem. Don't be politically correct. Use the show to talk about political correctness as a symbol. We don't need to be, come on, we are intelligent people. We know there's issues in our world. We can talk about it. The series can be a trigger for a conversation. It doesn't have to be in our faces. Okay, enough moaning. Let's continue with another scene. Now this is Ciri, or Ciri, depends who you ask, how you pronounce her name. This is where Geralt finds her. She's also quite older than in the books, but that's fine. To me, she actually looks more like Pavetta, who's Ciri's mother. It looks great. The light is great. The filters that they used looks awesome. I really want the series to succeed. To be honest, I'm a huge fan of The Witcher. Hence the freaking podcast, but just do it properly. Now the scene with Yennefer, who's still, well, deformed. She's a hunchback. She's it's been mentioned in the books, but not in that way. I mean, great if we, I mean, just making an interpretation of the book is one thing, but maybe they're trying to add something of their own. Because we know the world mainly from Geralt's and Ciri's point of view, with little jumps to like random characters, but it's almost insignificant. Maybe they're trying to get a further backstory for Yennefer. This, however, happened about 100 years before the events in the first book. Yennefer is quite old. It's not really specifically mentioned, but she's around 100 years old, if not older. So this is far, far, far in the past. The lady you see on the left, that's Tisaya de Vries, and she's a very, very powerful sorceress. She taught Yennefer in the school of magic, which is called Loxia. Now, Loxia is actually the lowest level of the school, which is called Aretuza. This is where Yennefer was schooled, and I think this is the kind of origin. It must be in retrospect, because if it is now, it takes years to master the craft of the magical craft, and Yennefer is actually really, really talented and powerful sorceress. So I really hope this is like far back in the past. How we know in the books, no, I'm not gonna say that. Spoiler free, guys. Some random scenes here. This is again Tisaya. This is some kind of, I guess it's a defense against Nilfgaard and the slaughter of Cintra. Now this is really good shot. This is really cool shot. This is the island of Thanedd, where the magical school for girls. This is very important because there's a school for boys as well. This is for girls. Aretuza. The school is in the palace. It looks to be more like a heavy castle of some weird architecture, but it's far away, so it doesn't matter. It's their vision anyway, and you know, great, fantastic. there should be city somewhere near that island. I actually imagine the island being much smaller than this, and it looks like a huge island. There's Glosvelen next to it, and the city thrives because the students of Aretusa, they spend a lot of money for the all the ingredients that they need to learn, and all the outfits that they also buy from so the city is very wealthy. This looks like Baron to me. But have a look at that spire. This is actually Torlara. In the common language, it's known as the Tower of the Gull, which is very important later on, but no spoilers again, just remember. There's again a few of those running scenes, which is actually quite funny when you look at it. There's just that character, I think it's Ciri, she's just running through the freaking woods all the time. Woohoo! That's, if it's the main role of hers for the first series, well, okay. Anyway, this looks like a little bit like from the trailer from the Witcher 3 game, when Geralt and Vesemir traveling through the no man's land. I like it. Maybe that's deliberate, maybe it's not. It's a nice shot anyway, and it will be probably important for the series story arc. Now the banner you see burning here, that's the Cintra's coat of arm. That's their crest. 3 lions, 3 golden lions on the blue background. So this is, I think, this is the pivotal moment in the books when Nilfgaard attacks the northern kingdoms, and Cintra is one of the first one to burn. And no spoilers, no spoilers. I'm trying not to say too much. Yeah, I think we can safely assume that we will witness the attack or the slaughter of Cintra as they Nordlings, which this is how you call people from northern kingdoms. Nordlings call it the slaughter of Cintra. Nilfgaardians, on the other hand, call it the battle of Cintra. So that's also very important somewhere later on in the books. Now the round table meeting without the table, I'm not sure what that is. I cannot really, not sure. Maybe it's some kind of a meeting of the kings. We will see. I'm not really sure. I'll skip the smashing of the mirror, and I'll skip the wagon full of blood around. That's fine, and Geralt riding through the woods. Silver chain again goes back to Vizima and the Striga first assignment. Geralt is actually binding Striga with a silver chain. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. And there's a few more we can safely assume that this is Striga from Vizima because of the sarcophagus and the claws you see later on. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but the chain looks nice and heavy, which I absolutely love. It doesn't feel like it's made of plastic. You can see that Henry Cavill is actually making an effort to swing it, so this is really, really cool. And again, this little frame feels like he's hunting for the Striga in the abandoned castle where the Striga reigns at the moment, and everybody's afraid of going there. They actually leave thieves and criminals to be eaten, so it serves as a punishment. But also when Striga eats them up, she doesn't venture far outside from the castle, so that's win-win situation kind of a thing. Yep, the claws. And this is Triss Merigold, I think. She's in green, she's got dark brown hair, and I'm absolutely sure that she was casted for the role of Triss. So I don't know, it looks pretty good. I mean, the problem is I'm quite biased as well, because Yennefer, well, when I was reading the books for the first time, you create that kind of you create your own vision of how people look like, how the atmosphere looks like. And game, somehow, especially The Witcher 3, they nailed all the freaking characters. I was so surprised. I have no idea, maybe I was just lucky, but all of them looked like I imagined. Yennefer, Geralt, Ciri was fitting into the whole image because she wasn't really mentioned as a grown-up. It felt still believable. Triss was very good, and So the film is, you know, they have a problem. They will have to fight against, especially against the fans of the game. It might be quite difficult for them, but we'll see. Now this is Geralt taking the money for probably the assignment. Now this looks like he is in the care of Nenneke, who's a priestess of Melitele, which is one of the goddess in the northern kingdoms. It looks like, maybe I'm wrong again, but it looks like he's trying to heal after the fight with Striga, actually, which we know. The bandage, I personally feel The Witcher wasn't as big. He was ripped. He hasn't had a gram of fat on him, but he wasn't huge. He wasn't Superman, basically, which Cavill is definitely built for that role. But damn, again, game portrayed him very, very well. I'm absolutely sure that CD Projekt Red was sitting with the book. They were probably sleeping with the freaking book and reading and reading and reading. And they came to that sweet spot where they were portraying the characters very precisely as described in the book. If they were making some sacrifices, they were all significant and appropriate. And this, I don't know. I mean, when Cavill is in the armor, that's fine, no problem. But this is almost like, let's just use that cheap little maneuver to sell his body for some, I don't know, I guess, audience that is looking for some sex appeal in this series. And if there's sex, which probably will be, I really hope it's not like the, for example, Spartacus, which almost every episode had some rough, some exposed sex scene. You have them in the books, and yeah, it's just a part of normal life, but it's also, what I really about the books is with taste. Yeah, if they're just trying to make it just a little bit like, oh, we're gonna sell this because Cavill looks great. Right. A lot of moaning. Let's progress. This here, I think this is a very memorable and pivotal event in Geralt and Ciri's life, where he, in the books, he meets Calanthe, the queen of Cintra, and Pavetta, and the urchin of Erlenwald, who becomes Ciri's father. And this is where the whole destiny starts to tighten its grip on Geralt, on Ciri, on Yennefer. I think here Geralt's talking to Mousesack, which is a slightly silly name, but I don't think it's as silly in Polish, but it's a pretty decent translation though. He's a druid. He knows magic. He knows destiny. This is the story actually that we learn a lot more about Geralt himself and how his destiny was created, how he was born, who was his parents. Very, very important scene. This looks like the Korath desert. I'm not sure if it seems a little bit too quick, because that happens in 1, 2, 3, 4th book of the series. So I really hope it's some kind of a dream or something that Ciri has. Hopefully they will not just make 7 books into 2 seasons or something like that. Let's just hope for that, guys. This is, I think, where the magic that Tisaya uses transforms Yennefer into this beauty. I mean, come on, she's beautiful. Still, this is not how I imagined Yennefer. But anyway, let's just give it a chance, shall we? That's the attack of Nilfgaard. And this attack, combined with the other scene with Yennefer, it could be the Battle of Sodden or the attack on Cintra. I'm not sure. Again, Sodden happens late in the 2nd book, I think, the Sword of Destiny. We'll see. Now, this is the female character that I'm slightly worried about. It feels to me like she looks female. Correct me if I'm wrong. She looks female to me. I hope she's not just like, oh, it worked in Game of Thrones, let's just squeeze some female knight character. This, however, feels like, again, going back to one of the stories, the same story where Geralt meets Calanthe and Urchin and Pavetta. That should be Pavetta that actually spontaneously releases her magical force and throws people all around the hall. It shouldn't be Ciri. So if they merged it all into one, it's just gonna be... there might be problems in the future if they haven't read the books fully and they just started writing. The damage will be not salvageable. By the way, the medallion looks pretty cool. I like it. Again, game made it fantastic, but still, I like it. And it is kind of like I imagine it while reading the books for the first time. And this, I believe, in background is Laszlo or Laszlo. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. It sounds quite Hungarian, which kind of makes sense because they were making half of those scenes in Budapest. So I don't know, maybe it's just like a nod towards the people that helped them. I believe this actor is Polish, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, this is all for the discussion down in the comments. Let's continue. And this feels, guys, this feels to me like Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. But this feels like some orgy in the background, and Yennefer's approaching Geralt, which is actually not how they met. They met when Geralt was trying to do his best to save Dandelion because of their misfortune / adventure with a djinn. So hopefully they'll make it as it was in a book, because it was actually fantastic. So I really hope it'll be he'll be the whole story about him and Pavetta, which was just pivotal to all the if that doesn't happen, none of the series story arc doesn't happen. So if they mess it up, it's going to be a massive problem. I hope they're not dryads with the spears, please. So magic, the sign, the famous Witcher signs. It looks like a battle of magic, and there we go, the logo. Cool, great. And this is the Kikimora, one of the monsters that Geralt kills in the first book. People say, what the hell is wrong with him? What's wrong with his eyes and with his face? This is the usual response for the Witcher elixirs or potions that he drinks before the battle. So the potions will enhance his skills, his reactions, the reaction time, and the way his heart behaves. Really cool. I really like they've shown this, and he looks great. I mean, here he looks fantastic. It looks a little bit elvish to me, but still the very kind of hard jawline of Henry Cavill. I think he looks great here. This is the Witcher that I want to see, not the bulky guy flashing his biceps and pecs all around the place. There we go, guys. So really, let's talk about it. Let's talk about, what do you see in it? Have you read the books? Maybe you haven't. What do you see in those scenes from the teaser? I'm really rooting for that series, for that project. There's a great material to make it very successful, but you have to have right people, not politically correct for the sake of it people. And yeah, just guys, but I think we also need to be aware that, well, nobody can force us to watch it if we don't like it, and they need to appreciate that. We as fans should be heard, and from what I've been following, and I've been following quite thoroughly, the responses of the whole crew, I didn't like those responses. They are not listening to the fans, and if you're not listening to the fans, there are problems in the horizon. But till next time, await another raven from me with another message. Fare thee well.